All right, guys, you could begin.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our group presentation on understanding self. This presentation will be done by Venus Pitley and myself, Garth Richardson. Understanding self. Why do we need to understand ourselves? It is important to get to know yourself. What makes you tick or do what you do? In getting to know oneself, one must understand one's strengths and weaknesses, passion, talent, and factors that shape your identity. One must say it's a no-brainer, but at the end of this presentation, you will decide for yourself. Development for self-leadership. By understanding yourself, you have a much better idea of your strengths, weaknesses, which will help you make better decisions, communicate better with others, and self-improvement, which is important as a leader so they can evolve in their leadership role. In this chapter, we'll discuss three main categories, which are your strengths and weaknesses, values, beliefs, ethnic and character, and finally, personal style preference. Strengths and weaknesses. Your abilities and limitations. Everyone has a different set of strengths and weaknesses, and knowing your personal ability and limitation can help you grow in your leadership, self-awareness, and in your ability to work with others towards achieving your goal. So, what are your strengths? Well, basically, it's your capabilities. What are your weaknesses? Well, that's basically applies to your limitation. Now, keep in mind that your weaknesses may be seen as a strength. For example, some people might say being kind is a sign of weakness. But however, I believe it takes a lot of strength for you to remain kind when somebody is being disrespectful to you. In the words of Mahatma Gandhi, he said, the weak can never forgive, and forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Identifying your passions and strength. So how do you identify your passion and strength? Our passion is something you enjoy doing. It may be aligned with your core beliefs and values. So, for example, your passion. You might be passionate about cooking, but be a bad cook. Your strength. It should be something that come effortless to you and you're excelling. So you might be good in numbers or finance, but you hate doing those numbers and crunching those numbers. So therefore, you do not have to be good about what you are passionate about or passionate about what you are good in. Now, there are some techniques that we can use to help find your strength. These techniques are listen to yourself when you have done something well, even though no one else have noticed. Identify how you feel when you do something great. 3, acknowledge how you learn things easy. So there are people when it comes to maths come easy to them, while for others, it might be English. These things come naturally to them. 4, study your past success for clues of your excellence. So in past, you might have a study routine that worked for you that help you excel. So you're going to use that same routine to help you excel in the future. Now, this means that people express their strength. They also express a sense of who they are. So something I found while doing my research is a little equation. Strength plus passion equal happiness. There's a quote, equation that I saw that I really like. Developing your talent. Well, everyone has talent. Some of us pay too much attention on our weaknesses and end up ignoring our talents. But every effective leader knows that they do their best when they apply their strength in their everyday life by ignoring their weaknesses and placing their focus on their talents. For example, Dennis Rodman. He wasn't good in scoring, shooting threes, passing the ball, but he was inducted into the Hall of Fame for his talent as a rebounder, going up against individuals who was taller than him, stronger than him, bigger than him. He was able to out-rebound them by using his talent.
All right, Garth,
Yes, sir.
you have a question from Chris.
Yes. What is your
No,
question?
no, sir. Gone on my mistake there. Sorry.
No problem, Chris.
Yeah.
Yes. So Dennis Rodman, due to his talent, he was able to be inducted into the Hall of Fame among these talented players who was known for their scoring ability based on his talent as a rebounder, which is a great achievement because the only other person that to be inducted to the Hall of Fame for his ability to rebound, I believe, is Mutombo. So instead of obsessing over your weaknesses and trying to cure or fix them, we should use this time to strengthen our talents to lead in those areas that we are strong in. Managing our weaknesses. Being able to balance our strengths and weaknesses can be achieved by managing our weaknesses. We cannot just eliminate our weaknesses, but we can make it so that our strength can be developed and used with profound ways. As a leader, it is essential to identify strengths and weaknesses, not only for yourself, but in your employees. This information will enable you as a leader to make smarter decisions when given assignments. It also allows the employee to be more effective and be able to succeed and grow. Esteem and confidence. Self-esteem and self-confidence are both thoughts and emotions which influence how we perceive and interact with others. Why this is important? Well, self-esteem is the ability to understand one's thoughts, feeling, and action. This is development, or this is developed or changed as a result of your life experience. Self-confidence. Self-confidence is the belief in yourself and your abilities. So let's say Michael Jordan. He had a belief in his ability to score at any given time over any given person. And due to that self-confidence, he achieved the highest of high. They now call him the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Cognitive reframing. How can this help build your self-esteem or confidence? Cognitive reframing is a technique used to shift your mindset. So you're better able to look at a situation or a person from a slightly different perspective. It is a technique which is used to change the way people think, feel, and behave. Now, the essential idea behind reframing is that the frame of thought which a person views a situation determines their point of view. When that frame is shift, the meaning change, and thinking and behavior, and often change along with it. Understanding yourself. Everyone should understand or try to understand themselves. This is done through self-awareness. Self-awareness is where you understand your strengths and weaknesses. This knowledge shows us where we have room to grow or develop. Our strengths help us feel confident in our ability to improve on our weaknesses. This is important when recognizing one's weaknesses and strengths, which allow you to utilize your ability and talent. In understanding yourself, we have to also understand what influences our behavior, which leads to the important question: is our behavior influenced due to nature or nurture?
What then shape your identity? Bennis, 1989, records these words. He says, the common observation of many knowledged leaders is that no one can teach you about yourself except you. We have all at one time or the other set goals, motivated ourselves, felt disappointed when we failed, felt happy when we achieved. And self-esteem is enhanced if you can identify your strengths and weaknesses and know that you are growing and progressing in the areas you want and more than want, need to improve. This then lends to development of our values. Dawn's theory of dipper and bucket, Rath and Clifton, 2004, states that each person is like an invisible bucket. When emptied, it makes one feel let down and negative, but when full, one feels positive. The question may be asked then, what are our values, or what are the things we value the most and why? What keeps our bucket filled and what causes our bucket to be emptied? An account is told of Nelson Mandela when he was in prison. The guards took him to a secluded place and had him dig a grave. He thought he was about to be killed, but having dug the grave, they placed him in it and peed on him. At his inauguration several years after, he invited the prison warden and the guard. One of the reporters questioned him about it, and Nelson Mandela replied, "Hating clouds the mind. It gets in the way of strategy. Leaders cannot afford to hate." Hate, as we know, is a learned behavior. so too is leadership. So too is understanding self. Carlos Reles, a 19th century author, wrote, "Principles are to people what roots are to trees. Without roots, trees fall when they are thrashed with the winds of the pampas. Without principles, people fall when they are shaken by the gales of existence." The winds of the Pampas is a burst of cold polar air from the west, southwest, or south of the Pampas in the south of Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Bolivia. This wind often violently picks up during the passage of a cold front of an active low passing by. And when we encounter things, it seems as if the wind and the waves beat upon us. Values, then, is what would keep us. Among the hardest things to articulate are the values that guides our action. And you may ask, what is values? It is what is important to us. It is the principles or standard of behavior. And these are formed through experiences and how we are cultured. Our principles, values, or beliefs are the lens through which we see the world. We then find the evidence and examples to prove our point of view. And if our values smell a little, we cheat, we cut ethical corners, and we stretch the truth. Police say we have become a stranger to the truth. Or decisions. They reflect one's sense of right and wrong. And some values that we need are integrity, honesty, justice, conscientiousness, empowerment, vision as a leader, communication as a leader, empathy as a leader, and courage under fire. Knowing our values keep us on track with our lives because everyone has values. Character and ethical behavior. A leader should have character to make ethical decisions and also express ethical behavior. You may ask how a leader should behave. Always tell the truth, ethically correct, communicate constantly, and exhibit strong and active listening skill, ethically. One writer says, when many options seem reasonable, it's helpful and comforting to rely on your values. If you can articulate your values, then you are likely aware of the principles and beliefs that serve as your guide. We have a little 2-minute exercise here for you to practice. So everybody have the pen and the paper. So for 2 minutes, I want you to write down what character shapes you as an ethical leader. What character shapes you as an ethical leader? And we're going to take about 3 responses from 2 persons, 2 or 3 persons. What character shapes you as an ethical leader? You have, it is now 11:33 on my computer at 11:36. Are we ready? Do I have to call names or do I have a volunteer?
Yes, Venus.
Uh-huh.
In terms of character, it has to be a grounded set of, I should say, values and standards. I wrote down 4 here in terms of like integrity, respect, equity, and truthfulness.
All right. And you believe as a leader you employ these tactics?
Yes, in varying degrees, dependent on the situation.
Given situation. Okay. All right. I want to hear from a female now. Anyone of the females?
Morning, Venus.
Morning.
I think one of the characters should be humility for a leader. And
Okay.
the reason for that is that you understand that although you have a leadership and position, you also have a mindset that you're not exempted from learning from others.
Right.
Especially your followers, taking advice and being humble with whatever they suggest and whatnot, allow them to give the input and, be able to take it just as valuable information.
All right. So I wrote something here. I said ethical leadership then, having read the book, ethical leadership then should be centered around appropriate conduct through respect for ethics and values, not only your own, but for others. I have 2 examples. Elon Musk is considered an ethical leader because he does not compromise his values for anything. However, some of his workers would have spoke of how he behaves so tyrannically at times. So ethical leadership then maybe can be considered subjective, as opposed to Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz. He is an example of an excellent ethical leader, as stated by Times. They said his integrity, his honesty, his justice, his conscientiousness, the way he empowers his workers, it's second to none. So ethical leadership boasts a culture of accountability, respectability, and trust within its process, systems, and people. Within its process, systems, and people. We need to be ethical. We need to grow our ethics as we develop ourselves. Next slide, please. We are going on to discuss personality typing. Personality typing is a system of categorizing people according to their tendencies to think and act in particular ways. It is also a way of making sense of our differences, our strengths and weaknesses, our values, and sorting them into meaningful groups. Catherine Briggs loved Carl Jung's theory, but found it too diffuse for normal people. Together with her daughter, they came up with a simpler version so persons can recognize traits for themselves. This theory of psychological type has been widely used in leadership assessment to understand self. This, however, is not without flaws, as you may or can change your pattern over time. As Colin said, in every given situation, sometimes you need to adjust to treat with whatever is before you. Becoming aware of your personality preference helps move you further towards self-awareness. It must be noted that Myers and Briggs' system pegged 16 possible combination or personality types. And sometimes we say people can't have split personalities. Myers and Briggs say there are 16 possible types. We have the MBTI extroversion and the MBTI introversion. This is how you gain energy. We live in a time and a culture where everything is a vibe and a feel. And I feel this and I feel the vibe and the wind blows so I went so. How do you gain energy? What do you allow around you? What do you encourage around you? The MBTI sends to collect information, reading through Google. I ask Alexa a lot of things sometimes. Some she knows, some she doesn't. How do you collect information when you're treating with your subordinates? How do you collect information when you have issues to deal with concerning them? Do you observe them or do you take what other people say? How do you gather information? The sensing versus intuitive. The other one is the thinking versus the feeling. How do you make decisions? Having been married for the last 20 years, my husband still has an issue with me. I would make a decision instantly. I put the facts together in my brain, toss it around, and I make a decision. He, on the other hand, would sleep on it, would rest on it, would think on it, and think. How do you make your decisions? Do you make your decision instantaneously, or do you wait a little bit? Do you relax about it? But eventually, when he comes around to my way of thinking, he realizes that I'm right. Right, ladies? That was just a little plug. And then we have the judging, MBTI J and MBTI perceiving. How do you organize your environment? I spoke earlier of the energy, the energy that you gain. How you organize the environment. When you go to work, your desk cluttered, your desk neatly stacked, everything in its place, compartmentalized, have a little OCD. How do you organize your environment, your yard space, the place that you exist? How do you organize that? This is the judging versus the perceiving aspect of the personality types. First and last letters of the personality type may indicate preferred style of exploring paths. What path do you take? The EJ type paths declare paths early, and the EP type like to experience everything first. Deciding is an ongoing process. The IJ type research paths before deciding. I go into see what New Zealand has, what are the places that I want to visit before I buy my ticket. And the IP type delay decision while considering all options. Should I do this? Should I go that way? These slides, the next two slides, I believe, or three, just information of the extrovert and the introvert. It shows the male-female ratio, who's more, what type, and what category you may belong to. It will be interesting to do this typing to figure out your own combination. I believe that it will be very interesting for us if we would do the Myers-Briggs typing to see where we fall on the scale. Recommendations. Understanding yourself requires understanding your strengths and weaknesses. If you don't understand your strengths and weaknesses, you will be blown with every wind and fancy. Because self-understanding makes a leader more effective by boosting self-confidence and self-esteem, we recommend that 1, you know your strength and exploit them to develop your talent. We all have a talent. Thank you. High 2, boost your self-esteem and confidence by managing your weakness. My weakness is I make decisions quickly. It's also my strength. So I have to learn to manage and balance that. And we would know our weaknesses. We need to learn how to manage it. 3, some of them can be addressed. Some cannot be addressed. But you can learn to use your strengths to surpass them. High self-awareness comes when one knows their personality type. I know what type of person I am. I know what I allow. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. As we looked at personalities, you realize that each person has specific personalities. These personalities shape one's identity and is therefore important to understand them. The start point of knowing your strengths and weaknesses is knowing your personality, because it tells you what you can do and what you can't do, what you should do and what you should not do. Personality is inbuilt. Remember I said we gain our values from experiences and how we are cultured, but one can know how to live with it and learn how to build new personalities. Is built from one's strengths and talent, and ability to address and manage one's weaknesses. As a leader, our strengths and weaknesses help create self-awareness and strengthen our convictions of who we are. As a leader, our self-awareness strengthens our values that enable us to the activities morally and ethically. Future leaders need to understand their personality types because they tell much about self and creates more self-awareness. Just some food for thought. Which MBTI applies to you? As I said, it would be interesting to do the test so you would know and understand why is it beneficial to know this information. Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. And just to put a different perspective on the spin of self, we have this little video for you guys.
I'm actually hearing the audio, Garth. I think you need to unmute your mic. Garth. Hi, Garth. We're not hearing the audio. You need to unmute your microphone. Okay. Okay, we're still not hearing it. Did you share your computer audio in your profile?
Not sure.
All right. And your audio is cutting out now. All right, what I think we could do is provide the link to the video to the students so that they could go and look at it on its own, because it doesn't make sense looking at it this way. All right?
Very well.
No problem.
So at this time, any questions? No questions?
All right, if there are no questions, let me just pause the recording.